Oh, what's up, guys? It's your boy Zaf, back with another Mastery Mondays. You know, I'm excited. It's been a while. It's only been, looking at my imaginary watch, it's only been 3 days, 4 days, whatever. Streamed yesterday, but I didn't count. So what's going on? Today we're going to be talking about strengthening your offense. So before we get into that, I'm going to talk about why I'm going to do it the way I'm doing it today. It's not going to be so much about giving you a set of instructions. You know, it's going to be more so about the mindset, you know, because mindset is what is going to allow you to do things seamlessly, more effortlessly. It'll allow you to do things the fastest possible way. It'll just be a lot more natural and organic when you have a mindset behind the decisions you're making, instead of it just being like, oh, I'm gonna just copy this person and just, you know, X, Y's. Thank you, Willie. I appreciate it. That's 3 months in a row. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it, man. Willie, shout outs to you. Shout outs to his stream. So, yeah, I lost my train of thought. Where'd it go? Oh, it's up there. So yeah, so your mindset. I'm gonna try to help you guys get this really ingrained in your psyche, because that way it'll make it a lot more natural, and because it'll be natural, it'll just allow your focus to be allocated in other areas of a match. You know, because you know you only have like X amount of focus, right? Imagine there's like a bar. You have X amount of focus, and you can only use this amount. So you'd want to be able to get so good at things that they don't really take away from your focus. That's why you begin with your mindset. And that way you can understand things and you can help evolve things because it'll be your own. All right. So let's get started. Let me get some random shout outs to my homies that are in the chat already tuning in. Shout outs to AJ. Shout outs to Commander Root. Electrical Skateboard, Kakarot, thank you for tuning in. Give me honey now. I've never seen your name and I'll give you the honey. Just give me the money. Hot Stepper, of course. Kitty Cat, shut him down. What's up, George? Thank you for tuning in. Zendel, what's going on, brother? I appreciate you guys for tuning in, as always. Okay, cool. So where do I begin? I got my handy dandy notes. You guys already know how I roll. So let's do it. Strengthening offense. So what is offense? We're gonna go by the Google definition. So your offense is action or attacking. Oh, action of it, or so what, action of attacking. There you go. Action of attacking or engaging an opponent or opposing team with the objective of scoring points or goals. So it's the action of attacking or engaging your opposing player, team, whatever, the opposition, with the objective of scoring points or goals. Okay. And when we talk about action, it's just a process of doing something with some sort of aim. You're trying to accomplish something. Okay. So when you are trying to play something like a sport, you want to get, if you want to win at a sport, you have to first know, well, how do I score, right? You can't just be like, hey, person that was born in an indigenous tribe, come play basketball. I'm not going to show you how to score. They're probably going to score in their own basket, you know? And then they're going to just be like, they're going to just be happy, like, and the coach will be so frustrated. He'd be like, why are you scoring in your own basket? And then he's just like, I did good, right? No. You'd have to teach them how to score. So when we look at Street Fighter, for example, I'm going to show you guys how to score that. Now, the reason why I'm going to show you guys is it goes to the mindset thing, because I know you guys already know how to score in Street Fighter and how, you know, how to accumulate points so that you'd win. Obviously, we think of it in terms of the health bar. The thing about the health bar is that there's two ways to win with the health bar, and we tend to forget and overlook the other aspect. I say this a lot in my stream, and it just so happens to be that, where is it? Ah, what's up, bunch? So when we look at the health bars, right, we see that okay, this is just a still shot, of course, this isn't in-game footage, but a lot of times when people think of scoring in Street Fighter, they think of KOing their opponent, okay, which is, yes, that is one of the ways you would technically score. You do want to inflict damage, of course, and they think, a lot of people play with the sole focus of KOing their opponent, but you tend to forget that you have the other aspect of scoring, which is just to have more health than your opponent when the round ends. Okay, so I'll bring it back to this. So how to score in Street Fighter. So we have our tangible, easily grasped, obvious victories, and then we have the intangible, subtle victories. Okay, so the tangible ones are like going to be more health based because they're the most obvious. I could take a first person shooter player, I could take a sports player, I could have them come over, they could join my stream. I'd be like, hey, let me show you a match of Daigo versus, I don't know, Tokido or something. And I'm like, look at the health bar, who's winning? And they could easily point out, they'd say, well, that one looks shorter, so you know, the person that has more health is winning. That's the obvious. It doesn't really take too much skill, discipline, and awareness to see that. Okay, but there's the aspect of the tangible victories that people forget is that I can beat you as long as that clock hits 0, right? As long as this clock hits 0 and I have more health than you, then I can win. Pay attention to this, okay? So there's that aspect. Of course, you want these to be the focus of your decisions, especially as you get into different phases of a match. But you just have to remember too that this is also an option. I don't have to knock you out. I don't have to be the aggressor all the time if I have the advantage in terms of our health. Because if you think about it, when you try to KO your opponent, your health bars, that's the focus, right? That's the aggressive tactic or the aggressive options in terms of trying to beat your opponent. Okay. So offensively, you could do that, or you can do that. You can do it this way, which would be the more defensive route. Okay. Cool. So now we talk about the intangibles. These are the subtle victories. These are the things that if you can obtain the awareness and build up in the discipline of being able to see this in real time, you'll be a much stronger player because you'll be able to dictate stronger options. You'll be able to see the opportunities that you wouldn't see otherwise. So I'll bring this up again. So now we have, for our intangible victories, which are the more subtle victories, the subtle ways of scoring, right? You have your health. I mean, you have your, not health, you have your super bar. This is a really common way of seeing who's at an advantage, who is technically scoring more, all right? Outside of the health factor, this is another like metric you can quantify. So if I look at my super bar and I look at my opponent's super bar, and I can dictate immediately, I have more access to super than they do. Depending on the matchup, that can make all of the difference in terms of who's at advantage and who isn't. So example, if I have Cammy against Akuma, right? Akuma has a fireball. His fireball can be really tricky to navigate when I don't have a bar. But when I have a bar, what ends up happening is I can subtract, if I have the execution, one of two things. I can subtract the option because the opponent now is way more careful or completely just negates the option fireball. Or if they don't care about that and they still throw fireball, you know what else I'm going to now start subtracting? I'm going to subtract their health bar because that is now damage that I'm inflicting. Now I'm scoring because of these things, because of this meter right here. Okay, so you have that. And then you also have your V-trigger bar, which is now something else you'd have to account for in the game. Okay, so you have that. That's another intangible victory. If I am closer to having V-trigger, you can even say that's an advantage because that changes the dynamic of neutral. All right, so you have your meter advantage, and then now we go on to the next phase, which would be your spacing advantage, the distance. Which character, if you look at this right now, which character is at advantage? So if we take all of these, right, if we just were to subtract the bar, and we just had two characters with no meter, they had full health, but they're at this spacing. Start of the match, who's winning? Chun-Li's most likely the one that's winning. Reason being is that she has longer pokes, faster walk speed, and she can, at this range, crouching medium punch under fireball on reaction. So it's really difficult for Ryu to fight at this range. You'd want to be actually closer or even further away from Chun-Li's stand roundhouse, okay? But the dynamic will change if Ryu has her in block stun, right? So that's why he doesn't really want to block anything, because then he can start fireball trapping. And then, of course, if he gets meter, that changes everything too, because his EX fireballs can retract his hurt box. Okay? What's up, Drake? And Willie, you troll. Yeah, I need to redo my mods list, but Willie, he deserves it because he's actually in here and he supports me. He's just messing around. All right. So we have that. And then the other aspect, the third one, is I put positioning. I was definitely typing this like at the speed of light when I was like writing these notes. Forgive me. No spell check on OBS. But my positioning, all right, my positioning advantage is it's gonna be the same thing. It sounds like the same thing, but it's really not. Positioning meaning the corners involved. So when we talk about spacing, it's relative to each other, but when we talk about positioning, it's in relation to the corner also. So you can have the same positioning, or you can have the same spacing, but then the positioning is different. So we can have, like, say, sweep range mid-screen or sweep range in the corner. Those are two very different situations, because when you have the corner, it's as if you, I said this before a long time ago, it's as if you are, you know, in a schoolyard fight, and then you're beating somebody up, and then all of a sudden, like, their friend jumps behind you, and then they just started jumping. They just started like stopping you from being able to move away from their punches. They just kept pushing you. Like, you try to get away from the other person's punch, but then this person behind you is just like, you're like, damn, I gotta fight like two people now, you know? Except for the corner obviously doesn't hit you. But the point stands is that it's kind of neutralizing your movement. It's keeping you a lot more confined, and you have much less room for, you know, leeway in terms of your decisions you can make. Because you can stand and you can walk back, but you can't walk out of range. Your opponent is the person that's going to dictate if that range is created or not, because they can walk in and out freely. You can only walk in and walk back to that very static point, which is where the wall is. So I can't move beyond the wall. I can only move where that position is, which is where the wall is, and forward. That's basically it. Okay. So I covered that. And now what is next? Oh, okay, cool. So now we go to... go over here to this random blank screen. So we're still going into the whole mindset aspect of this discussion. And now we bring up this guy. Ha! Who is this guy? Can you guys tell me who this guy is? Come on, guys. Come on. Somebody guess. Come on, chat. Don't disappoint me. Hey, there you go, Zendo. All right. I bro Chacho. Okay, George, you got it too. Exactly. That's Sun Tzu. That is the legendary Sun Tzu, who is the creator of the Art of War, which is basically like just like transcripts of his philosophy about war, which is basically, you know, like it's just a conflict between two opposing parties. Okay. And if you look at fighting games, or any sort of like competitive thing, right? Be it sports, it can be video games, whatever, dancing, like breakdancing, whatever. There are two opposing sides, and each one has their own goal that they're trying to accomplish. Okay, and now there's a conflict because only one person's goal can be accomplished, and that is there's a victor and there's a loser. Okay, so if both people are trying to win, that means there's some sort of disconnect. Something's gonna have to dictate that. There's gonna have to be some concrete. This person wins. All right, so that means there's gonna be a loser. So Sun Tzu, his Art of War transcripts, his writings basically are just some of the most profound works in terms of war. And it's not just like literally war, but also it's used in business. It's used in the competitive sports like world. There are people that reference to this that are in sports, that are in esports, that are, you know, like actual like militant generals and stuff like that. Like a lot of businesses, like business owners, you know, they'll use like little tactics from this for the directions of their company. It's really dope. So like you can absorb this and you can just regurgitate it in so many different ways. What's going on, Nelbomb? What's going on, Black Acid? Thank you guys for tuning in. So we have Sun Tzu, and I'm gonna show you guys from the, I believe it was the strategic offensive chapter of Art of War. There are two quotes that I'm going to pop up over there. Okay. So these are the 5 essentials for war, for victory in war. So you have the know when to fight and when not to fight. Okay. That would be your risk reward. understand how to deploy large and small numbers, which would be your advantage versus disadvantage. Have officers and men who share a single will. Be decisive. Be ready for the unexpected, your X factors, and have a capable general unhampered by a sovereign, which is like external influences. So I'm going to get into each one a little bit. So for the first one, knowing when to fight and when not to fight is so important because it can make the difference between you following through and concluding a match in victory, or you falling flat on your face and you gave up everything you worked for and now you're the one that's at disadvantage. So it sounds like it's the next one. It's like similar to the next one. It's kind of like a square. A square can be a rectangle, but a rectangle can't be a square. Where your risk reward can be defined within your advantage and disadvantage, but your advantage and disadvantage isn't necessarily going to dictate your risk reward all the time. Okay, so for this, I'll give you an example. So we have did I write it down? Did I write one down? Let's see. Nope, I didn't write it down. Okay, so for risk reward, let's say I'm in the end of a match and my opponent has super, okay, and I'm in super range. Like if they hit me with super, I'm dead. Okay, what's up, Manny? Thank you for tuning in, brother. So if I am within super range, like if they wake up super right now, it'll kill me. Okay, but I can chip them out. Right? Let's say I can chip out my opponent with I have super. I can chip them out and kill them. But if they hit me with wake up super, I'm dead. Okay? Now, let's say like the entire match, my opponent has been waking up with buttons and waking up with DP for the entire set. In terms of risk reward, if I go in and I throw him, I can kill him. If I go in and press a button, I can kill him, right? So those are the rewards, same rewards. But why would I do that when I can just wait and delay, and then off of his reaction, however he wakes up, then I can go and chip kill? Why not delay it? So that way I can avoid a reversal. I can be, if I maintain a range where he can't throw me, he can't wake up throw me, he can't wake up super me because I just block it and I wouldn't die. I can just block it and I would just punish him. And if he presses a button, I could whiff punish it. But if he sits there and blocks, I can confirm the block and then I can go and chip kill him. And then I win the set. All right? So why would I do that? Why would I not do that? And instead, why would I go in and risk mediating him, risk throwing him, and I eat a wake up DP, or I eat a super and then I lose the round, or I'm in I'm in throw range and he back throws me into the corner? Why would I put myself in that position? All right, that's the risk reward aspect. So like risk reward is also important where you can be at an advantage, okay? Because when you're at an advantage, you want to keep exercising your advantage, or you want to strengthen your advantage. When you're at a disadvantage, you want to transition from disadvantage to advantage. If you can't do that immediately, you want to go from disadvantage to slightly less disadvantage, and then you want to graduate it until you get to an advantage, and then you start to keep compounding it over time, and then you strengthen your advantage over and over and over and over again. Okay, so if I'm at advantage, this is where risk reward comes into play. If I'm at advantage, is it worth me going for a certain type of advantage or just maintaining the advantage I have? You see what I'm saying? So like sometimes, like I'm guilty of this, where I would have somebody cornered, and instead of me keeping them cornered, I will walk up and try to throw them. I keep trying to do that. I keep trying to mix up between throw and frame trap, delay trap. And what ends up happening is that I'm now in a mind game that I don't necessarily have to be in. I'm not exercising the strengths that I have in my position. I'm trying to do something completely outside of my advantages that I have now. So instead of me playing the spacing game and playing to my strengths, the strengths of my character, the strengths of me as a player by playing footsies and being reactionary and locking down on people, now I'm trying to pressure. And when you are within proximity of your opponent, defense can turn into offense very quickly in this game. Because if you are off by a fraction of a second, that can literally turn the tides of the match, and things can snowball. Okay, so I would just want to put myself in the best possible position to win. So that's why it's really important to identify your advantages and understand when you are at advantage. But if I'm at a disadvantage, then I have to identify that also, because you don't want to play at inside of a disadvantage as if you're at advantage, because then you're gonna start running into shit. So let's say, for example, I block a slow fireball in the corner from Ryu or from Gao, for example. If I block slow fireball, I don't want to jump after that, okay? Because I know if he does fierce fireball, that's most likely gonna hit me. Depending on how far he is, he can fireball trap me and hit me on my jumping frames. And at worst, I'll jump over it, but I still get flash kicked. It's not really worth it in that situation, okay? So understanding that, then I'm like, all right, so instead let me block until I get into a situation where I can use his advantage against him, the comfort that he's built and instilled into his mind. So that's how you would use that. And then you can graduate your disadvantage into an advantageous situation because of that. So it's all about like leveraging the right things, knowing what battles to win. You know what I'm saying? What's going on, D-Man Bats? You want to figure out what battles are worth winning and which battles are worth just maintaining that stillness and patience until you can see the opportunity. Because you don't have to win every single battle. That's the thing. Like, and I'm guilty of this, and I'm just starting to like relinquish this. Is that you don't have to win every battle. Just figure out which battles are worth winning. That's the simplest way I could just put everything I said. So risk reward and is understanding which battles are worth winning in your advantage and disadvantage. That's how I would assess that. That's how I would tie those two things together, okay? So the other elements are the essentials. Have officers and men who share a single will. Now this is like really, really crucial. Diehard 4, what's up, man? They're still going to jump forward from the corner. Yeah, for sure. Some people are going to do it. But that's why you identify those people, all right? And that's good. I'm going to get into that in the next slide, even though it's not a slide, but whatever. So have officers and men who share a single will. Be decisive. So whenever I put something in parentheses, it's just to kind of like translate it into modern day English. But be decisive. And what that means is just being one with your decisions. If you're going to commit to something, commit to it, because that's the purest form of learning. You're always going to learn when you are just following all the way through. I'm going to do this regardless of the repercussions. And then if you fail, and you immediately understand that you failed. You don't lie to yourself and say, oh, I messed up, or, you know, whatever. Just say, oh, this is not the result I wanted, so is it worth me trying to continue going for that same read, that same frame trap, that same rhythm, or should I just kind of dial back and then reassess things? And that can fall back into your advantage and disadvantage. Depending on where you are, it'll be a lot easier for you to do that, okay? So you want to be decisive. You want to do things and commit to it. Don't hesitate. If you feel in your heart that you should wake up DP, do it. Do it. Who cares what anybody else thinks? And that's going to get down to the last point. I'll bring this back up. So we'll move on to the next one. So be ready for the unexpected. This is really important for the people that are intelligent, the people that are really methodical and they do a lot of studying and analysis before going to matches and stuff like that, the people that are really strategic. Be ready for the unexpected. There are X factors that are going to be variables you cannot account for, because these are two human beings at play that are playing this game. Now, let me say this right now. Knowing yourself 100% is already like, it's not happening. You're learning about yourself every single day, all right? Because you haven't been in every single situation possible. So you're learning about yourself every single day. That's in and outside of the game, if you are aware to the fact, okay? So in knowing this, if you don't even know yourself, how do you know your opponent 100%? You don't. And you have to admit that. And that's the thing about the sharp players, like the intelligent players, it can kind of turn into pride taking over at a certain point, because their work ethic is so just strenuous that they become confident, which is great. But if something happens that's outside of their calculation, they might get frustrated. They might grow emotional and just start to blame things on things that are outside of their control. I used to suffer from this like terribly, and it made me really not appreciate the game. But then I realized, like, yo, I don't even know myself 100%. I'm only, X amount of years into the game, 25 years on Earth. I don't even know myself 100%. So how can I expect me to understand everything my opponent's gonna do? Like, no. And that's why that ties back into the risk reward. Like, if I'm not 100% certain about something, I should not go for it. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, either follow all the way through and be decisive, or just wait it out, because sometimes opportunities present themselves. Ronan, what's going on, man? Thank you for tuning in, brother. So that's what I'd say about X factors. Sometimes things are going to happen that you don't account for, and it might frustrate you, but just get back to what you know works, okay? And then just make those adjustments if you can. If it's something you haven't trained for, like a certain setup, and it's like really ambiguous, and that in the middle of a match, like, the best you're going to do is you're going to have to guess, and that's something you should accept right away. You're going to have to guess, or you're going to just, you know, you can try to experiment, but if your experimenting fails, don't be frustrated, because you obviously didn't account for this, and it's something you have to go into the lab and train. It's as simple as that. Okay, and then the last thing is have a capable general unhampered by his sovereign. So this is for the people that get influenced outside of the game. Okay, so let's say if you are in a position in the match where you're winning, and you know you're winning a certain way, and then all of a sudden somebody starts booing you from the crowd, you know, and then you get kind of deterred, you get a little rocked up, and you're like, damn, shit, I don't want to play like this anymore. That's now you getting hampered by external influences. The supreme rulers are now the people in the crowd. Okay, so now you're giving them the power instead of you following through and closing out the match and doing what is necessary. The capable general does what's necessary. All right, so that in and of itself is a discipline to just follow all the way through with your strategy, unless of course there are those X factors we talked about. But anything outside of the game, like the community's feedback, people in the crowd, you know, like just the stream monsters, you know, your opponent, you don't want to beat your opponent a certain way because you don't want them to get salty. These are real things. Like, some people really do struggle with this, and this is just because there's a lot of emotions tied to it. So what I say is, like, if you're going to strengthen this aspect, you're gonna have to get a lot of emotional awareness towards yourself and seeing like what exactly is triggering certain things about you. You know, Hot Stepper says, I went a whole month without wake up DP because not wanting to be called a scrub. So you see what I'm saying, Hot Stepper? So it's real. I'm not making this up. This is something that some people do struggle with. So everybody struggles with different challenges. You know what I'm saying? And it's all towards that goal of winning. But everybody's story is different. Everybody's gonna have to navigate different challenges. So when you had that was a challenge. You didn't want to be called a scrub. But you see how it takes away from you learning the DP aspect of the game, because now you're not experimenting, and now you're worried about other people. So if you're going to be a capable general, that is you as the player. You are doing what's necessary. If I have to wake up DP, if I have to do wake up low forward, if I have to wake up jump, if I have to do a frame trap over and over and over again, I'm going to do it. That's that. I don't care about what anybody else has to say, because you're trying to do it for yourself. That's what it's like. You're doing it for the results. I'm trying to learn, or I'm trying to win. You know? So like, you don't always have to win, you don't always have to learn, but when you do decide to do something, that's what you're doing that tournament. That's what you're doing that game. That's what you're doing that round. Okay? Princess Slim, thank you for tuning in. How you doing? Tokyo Dawn, thank you for tuning in. Also, I appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Much love to you guys. So yeah, so there's that. Okay, so let's see. Oh, so then the last quote we have, so that was the 5 essentials of victory. So I recommend anybody that hasn't to read Art of War. It'll absolutely just shatter your paradigm and perception of combat, and it'll teach you a lot about just war in terms of fighting games, in terms of RP, like any sort of like competitive game, you know, or a sport. It'll help you a lot, tremendously. I can promise you that. Okay, so let's see. So we have the 5 essentials. So know the enemy, know yourself, and victory is never in doubt, not in 100 battles. So know the enemy, know yourself, and victory is never in doubt, not in 100 battles. Wow. So okay, so I'll continue all the way through and we'll go back. He who knows self but not the enemy will suffer 1 defeat for every victory. Okay. He who knows neither self nor enemy will fail in every battle. Wow. Okay, so let's dial it back. So know the enemy, know yourself, and victory is never in doubt, not in 100 battles. So this kind of ties back into the whole variables thing. A lot of what we talked about in the last examples with the essentials, when you know when to fight and knowing when not to fight, that's the risk reward. And knowing when to fight your opponent and when not to fight the opponent, a lot of that has to do with being aware of them, being aware of their intentions, being aware of their temperaments, being aware of when they become emotional, being aware of when they are confident, or when you've shattered their soul, you know? Because, like, if I can beat my opponent without ever really having to fight, then that's like supreme excellence right there. That's the highest level of winning a victory, is when you never really had to fight and you just completely shattered your opponent's like just belief system in themselves, in their strategy. Just you completely just disassembled whatever approach they had in a matchup, and now they feel like they're questioning themselves, like, do they even know Street Fighter? That is like the highest level. All right, so knowing when to fight and knowing when not to fight. So if you know yourself, that's being aware of your temperaments, being aware of your biases. I stress that so much, guys. Like, you want to be aware of your biases, because you'll start to notice in certain situations you will favor certain emotions over logic. So I'll give you an example. Like, I made a list, and it's an emotion versus reason list inside of Street Fighter, where in certain situations I'll become more emotional as opposed to logical. So let's say, for example, one of the instances that I've worked on is that when I make a mistake, because I have this infatuation, or more so an obsession, with perfectionism, and that's perfectly healthy in training, but it's never good to take that into battle, because when you take perfectionism into battle where there are things you can't account for, what happens? If you are completely just engulfed by the idea of being a perfectionist, you suffocate and you drown yourself in these ideologies they're not realistic and they don't exist. And now you get frustrated, and now you're not only fighting your opponent, you're fighting yourself. So now you've literally cornered yourself without being in the corner, you feel me? So like with the corner example I said, when your back is to the wall, you can't really maneuver. When you become emotionally undisciplined, and you're just like really frantic and frustrated, now you're fighting your opponent and you're fighting yourself. You can't really maneuver, you can't accomplish the things you want to do. Okay, because now you're being indecisive. When you're like united with your intention, your focus, your execution, that's when you are decisive. That's when it's like you've completely eliminated. You haven't completely eliminated, but you're narrowing down like the variables to defeating you is gonna be like, it's a lot more slim. Like, there are gonna be less things that can really defeat you. Like, your opponent is gonna really have to outplay you in order for that to happen. Kakarot says, like, when you miss a move and you try to do the move again when it's not needed, that hits me a lot. Yeah, that's like something I would do, because my idea is, oh, I messed up, I need to correct this. Because if I don't correct this if I don't win this exact battle, I'm losing. False. That's not true. And that is the mindset of a loser. Because a mindset of a winner understands how to lose. You have to know how to lose, and you have to define how you're going to lose. If I'm going to lose, I want to lose this way because the opposing player was superior to me, not because I lost to myself. I want to lose because you beat me. I don't want to lose because I became stubborn, I got narrow-minded, tunnel vision. No, I want to just define how I lose. That's what makes you a supreme and strong player. Okay, it's being able to do that. Not winning by force, I'm over that. That's like being a child, winning by force, whatever. That wins you a couple times, but in terms of solidifying and cementing yourself in a community and being at the top, you gotta know exactly how you're going to lose. Like, this is how I'm going to lose, and you have to know how to win. Those two they're very important. They're like two sides of the same coin, but people tend to focus on the one that's easiest to comprehend, which is winning. Okay. So let's see. Okay. So yeah, knowing your enemy and knowing yourself, victory is never in doubt, not in 100 battles. All right. So the next one is, he who knows self but not the enemy will suffer 1 defeat for every victory. So this is for the people that are inconsistent. The people that can be hot one day and then the next day they're just like dry raisins, okay? So when you understand yourself, this is something that I was guilty of, but you don't understand your opponent, naturally it's because of being selfish. So like when you play a match, you're just doing things and you're just doing things for yourself, and with you're only taking into account the reason why you're doing it for yourself. So it's like this: if you were to watch break dancers, right, and they're breakdancing, when break dancers break, they break by themselves and one at a time. Okay, so they're not really dancing with their opponent. They're going against them, but they're not dancing at the same time. All right. So that's a different dynamic. Chess, it's turn-based, so that's a different dynamic. But in something like this, where both people are moving at the same time, that is like really important to understand your opponent also, because they're going to try to stop you from knowing yourself. They're going to try to stop you from having that confidence in yourself, in your game plan, your strategy, your approach, that angle of attack that you usually win with. They're trying to do that, but if you're not aware of that, you might trip into something you don't know is going to happen. And that goes into what I said with the be ready for the unexpected. So the way you can kind of slice out the variables you might not be able to account for is paying attention to your opponent that much more, because they'll basically be telling you and giving you information about themselves that you would possibly overlook otherwise. Okay, so when you're inconsistent and you're winning sometimes and you're losing other times, it's probably because certain play styles you're winning against because you just so happen to be playing in a way that beats that opponent. But when you're losing against other play styles but you're playing the same way and you're getting that back and forth, like, this is frustrating, I just don't seem to be able to win consistently, it's probably because you're not paying attention, period. You're just kind of rolling the dice anytime you go into a matchup, and you're trying to just work on yourself but not really building up that empathy skill and paying attention to your opponent, understanding their intentions, their mindset, and tracking what they're thinking of and their emotional state. Those things are really important. You want to basically play in a way where your character and your opponent's character are both being controlled by you. You're playing two characters at the same time. I'm playing Cammy, but I'm also playing Manat, at the same time. That's why it's really good to play multiple characters, because remember what I said earlier, it's about mindset, and the best way to develop a mindset about the opposing character is to play the character, because then you don't have to sit there and do things and try to break things down and analyze things in the middle of a match when it could just come to you seamlessly. I've played 100 matches with Manat. I understand how to play Manat. I watch videos of Manat so I can understand it like that. Let me stop snapping so I won't hurt you guys' ears. But that's what I'm saying. Like, you want to be able to absorb this mindset, and it'll be so seamless. It'll be natural and organic, and that way you can reallocate your mental focus to other areas of Street Fighter. Maybe you want to focus more on footsies. Maybe you want to focus more on reading movement. Maybe you want to focus more on anti-airing, on walking forward, on bulldogging and walking and crouching, like different things like that, identifying play styles, watching the meter. Like, in order for you to be able to learn all of these skills, you have to start one at a time, right? Okay. So let's see. And the last part of the quote is, he who knows neither self nor enemy will fail in every battle. And that's pretty much, that's obvious, like, you don't have to really go into it too much. Person that's not aware of their habits but also doesn't take time to understand their opponent, that player is definitely going to get washed. Okay, like, they can just probably try to rinse and wash and repeat through their character's offense, but they're not really winning. Okay, because even if they do win a match, they're failing because they're not growing. That's where the failure aspect comes in. You can play and just do things, and you might win a match, you might win a set, but you didn't really win. You failed because you stayed the same. And in a constantly evolving world, if you stay in the same position but the world is moving, what happens? The gap between my left hand and my right hand is increasing. That means the gap between you and the world is increasing. So you're failing. You're falling behind. All right? So that is that. So Offense, the mindset. That is, you want to understand how to score, and you want to pay attention to your characters and those little things, and understanding yourself, understanding your opponent. Okay, so now we can get into the game, and I'll show you guys an example of offense. So for me, like fundamentally speaking, when it comes to offense, let's try this down a little bit. I want to play fast, I want to play close, and I want to just play to the board. Okay, so that is what helps me with the discipline aspect of not playing to the sovereign, and instead playing to, you know, that disciplined Zaf, where I just do what's necessary. So I want to play to the board, basically reading the board, reading the screen, seeing what's happening, what's appropriate. I just want to play based off of what's appropriate. Okay, of course, rules are meant to be broken. There's a time and a place, but just for now, just for this teaching session, we just try to do that. That's what I would want to do. I want to play to the board. I want to play close, and I want to play fast. It's because if I play fast, it's going to be, the faster I play, the more committal my opponent has to play. So if I'm playing really fast, like I have to, if I'm on the defensive end of somebody playing fast, I have less time to make a decision. And the less time I have to make a decision, that means I have less time to analyze. And that means that the less time I have to analyze, the more it's going to be guesswork. So that means I have to commit. You know, I have to just be like, oh, I'm going to jab. I'm gonna just block this +3 button, and I'm gonna jab anyways. You know? So that's something to keep into account. So like, you're basically, the closer you are to your opponent offensively, the more likely they have to respond. They have to respond. Okay? So whenever I'm pressuring somebody, I want to be close. Okay? Like, you don't always have to be close to pressure somebody, because just a mere presence at an advantageous positioning, or spacing rather, that's enough to make people crack. Because they know, like, damn, if I press this button, this shit is gonna whiff. I don't know what to do. If I jump, he keeps anti-airing me. What do I do? They don't know how to win the right battles. So they just see it as, I want to land damage, but they don't see, like, which battle do I have to win. I win this small battle by walking up. I win this small battle by whiffing a jab and watching what he does. You know, like little things like that. You want to figure out and add some diversity to your strategy, so that way you can, as quickly as possible, hone in on what's necessary, what's appropriate given the situation. So my offense, I want to play fast. You know what I'm saying? Like, play fast, play close, and I want to pay attention to things. Playing the board, paying attention to meter, paying attention to V trigger, super, health, stun, all that. And then I'll make my decision accordingly, okay? And then, of course, on top of that, playing to the board is watching the music, the rhythm of my opponent. Do they get extremely flustered at a certain point? When do they become really aggressive? When do they start to take crazy risks? Those things will get factored into my offense. And then on top of that, we dial it back to what I was saying earlier about knowing when to fight and when not to fight. Even if I have all these answers, sometimes it's good to just throw that shit out the window and let them hang themselves. You know, knowing like, I don't really have to do anything because I'm winning. I want to see if you are disciplined enough to understand what's going on. And then if you can prove to me that you do, then I can evolve to plan B. But for now, let me just wait. Let me just wait and let you hang yourself potentially. Because then that's just, now score, that's just points falling into my hands. I'm scoring and I don't have to exert much energy. I'm defeating my opponent without force. All right? That's the most skillful way of winning. So I can give you like, let me see. So let's see. So I said play close, play fast, and play to the board. Okay. So whenever I'm playing close, like each time you're playing a certain way, you can kind of create your own rules. So when I'm playing fast, I want to play in a way that after I've convinced my opponent not to do anything, that I can do something else. Like I'm doing something else. That way it looks a lot faster. If I have their attention on one particular thing, like, damn, Zaf keeps hitting me with counter hit frame traps. Now they're looking for it. And then, you know, all of a sudden I jump. Now they're like, wait, what? I wasn't expecting him to jump. Jump always is the same amount of frames. But sometimes you notice, like, why couldn't I react to this jump? It's because your focus was on something else. And by the time you processed it, it's towards the end of the animation. It's towards the end of the scenario. It's about to resolve, and I'm about to be at your face, right? So by the time you realize something's happening, it seems like it's happening way faster than it actually is. But it's really just you taking your focus, which was in this direction, and then you're like, oh, it's actually this is going on, and then it's like, whoa, I didn't think this was gonna happen, and now everything seems like it's way quicker than it really is. Jump animations are always gonna be the same. All right, so it's just the focus. Like, so when I want to play fast, I want to take my opponent's attention and focus it on something else, and then I do a movement that goes around that focus. I'm just trying to get them zeroed in on one particular thing, and I'm fighting around it, so that it makes me play faster. So that's where, like, if somebody's expecting you to, you know, to like whiff punish. Let's say if I do a crouching medium kick and then I whiff punish somebody the round before, stand medium kick into Tatsu, DP super. Now they're like hesitant, like, oh shit, after the last low forward, I pressed the button and you know, you fucked me up for it. So now it's like, I'll do the low forward and I'll dash up. That's what you see a lot of like good players do, is they'll take advantage of negative situations when they know that you're playing the spacing game on top of the frame data game. Because if I'm like up here and I press low forward, I'm -1 with Akuma, so yeah, you can just press jab. But if I'm here, it's a different dynamic because of spacing. Like, what button are you gonna press? I don't even think Cammy can do stand medium kick after I do this. So let's, you know, so I'll take an example. All right, so I do stand medium kick. All right, turn it on. Okay, so let's see, right? So then that would happen. Now you're hesitant whenever you block at that range. And now because of this, I can, you know, do other things like dash up, or I can, you know, maybe I could whiff punish it again if I'm feeling it, or I can jump, commit to things, right? Obviously I'd get hit there, but you catch my drift. So that would be like the rules of me playing fast, is to get their focus on that, right? So everybody, you can create your own system within offense. You gotta create your own rules and stuff and fail over and over and over again. And then that's how you create your own play style, right? So if I'm gonna play fast, this is how I play fast. If I'm gonna play close, this is how I'm gonna play close. So when I play close, I typically want to use light attacks, because shout outs to AJ for this. But when you use light attacks, you push yourself back less. All right, as opposed to me using a medium, look how much further I am, right? But if I do jab, I can just, some characters, they can tick into it, they can just walk forward, right? But you see I move forward and I still missed. But if I do a jab, then it makes my offense that much scarier, because now they feel like they have to commit. And now if my opponent thinks they can press a jab after they block my jab, then I would frame trap, right? So that's how playing close. That's why I would like to have that approach with playing close. I play with light attacks because I'm closer for longer, and the longer I'm closer, the more likely they are to crack at some point. Okay, just mathematically speaking, the more I'm at an advantage, the longer I'm at an advantage, the more likely I'm going to inflict damage or I'm gonna score. That's basically what it is. What's up, Andy? Shout outs to Andy. So let's see, what else? So create a system that allows you to identify these moments, and when appropriate, provide a solution. Okay, so let's say I have Cammy. All right, so this is like my system. Your system could be based off of a block string. I got this from Hamad back in 4. He taught me like the idea of having like a system with your offense. So let's say with Cammy, like my go-to system is stand light kick, crouching jab. Because the reason is that if I do stand like a crouching jab on counter hit, I can combo it, and let's say, okay, so if I do, I believe this should work. Let me see. That combos. You see how I said 2 hits? You can do it again. What's up, Kimbo? So that combos, and because that combos, now I can get a completely different conversion off of this situation. I can go, and now I get all of that damage. Okay. So now let me do it. I don't know if that's gonna work, but. Oh, you know what I can do? What am I doing? I can just record this against the late wake up. Duh. Okay, there you go. Who followed? Venture, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Okay, so let me wake up with a laggy button. Seeing all that combo. So that's one of the reasons why I really love this block string, is because of the conversion off of it in the corner. So your systems could be different based off of being in the corner and being mid-screen. Okay, because the way you can combo it's going to be different, especially if you have characters that have juggle combos like Cammy. In the corner, it's going to be much more likely for you to land it because the opponent is hugging the wall, so they don't fly far away like they would mid-screen. Okay, so this is why I like using this block string. Also, because if I do the same string, I can do that same thing I kind of showed you guys with the Akuma example, where I can do the walk-up throw. Alright. And it's so hard to see it, like, that she walked forward. Right? So that would be one thing. So that would be really good against somebody that like blocks. Alright. And I'll do another version of this. So if I do this, okay, let's say that my opponent knows I'm doing walk up after the crouching jab. So if I play the mirror match a lot, like I know Cammy players, like when I played Kazunoko in tournament once, I was like, okay, Kaz, I know you're gonna do stand short, crouch jab, walk up throw. So I just kept interrupting him with crouching jab, stand strong, fierce. So I can get a counter hit off of the walk up throw in his own offense. So that's a part of understanding offense and strengthening your offense, is understanding that defense is basically hidden offense. All right, so like you're just hiding behind blocking and waiting for the opportunity to initiate your offense, but you're just looking for that opportunity. Sometimes you can guess, you know, because sometimes you just gotta do it. But other times you can be more accurate and you pay attention, take a couple throws in round one to understand your opponent's offense, like when they're succeeding at something versus when they're failing at their offense. If somebody's succeeding at their offense, how do they behave? When they fail at their offense, how do they behave? Do they get more aggressive? Do they get more complacent? Get more defensive? Do they get more laggy with their buttons? You know what I'm saying? So like that's another way of if you understand offense, it can actually strengthen your defense. Okay. So let's say like I'm Cammy and I know my opponent keeps trying to jab me from walking up and throwing them. Then I would get that frame trap. So now this forces me to block. So now because I'm forcing them to block, that opens back up the walk up throw mind game all over again, okay? And they get thrown. So if I'm gonna like pressure, you would kind of have like a decision tree based off of your string. So Cammy's decision tree would be this. What happens after this? All right, so what you could do is you can just immediately start your pressure off with walk up throw, because usually when you knock down a good player, especially in this game, knowing that it's very unlikely for them to be able to initiate some sort of oppressive offensive sequence after throw. A lot of people just take the throw. They're just like, I don't really give a shit, right? So you can use this to your advantage. So now you're influencing your opponent offensively. You're creating suggestions in their mind by doing this walk-up throw scenario. So by doing this, you're now forcing them to make a decision. Do they keep on taking this throw, or do they try to stop you from doing that? Okay? So what you could do is now you could have the aggressive guess answer, where it's like, after I do this block string, now because I threw you, I'm gonna just frame trap you because I think you're gonna stop me from walking up. But what you could do is you can do the knowing when not to fight. See, now knowing when not to fight, this is where this comes into play. Instead of me going for the answer and me making a guess, you know, instead of me making an assumption, because assumptions can get you killed in fighting games, what I could do is I could just do this, and I could just wait, and I'll see what happened. All right. So let's say I pressure somebody and this happens, and I see this. I'm like, oh, you about to get frame trapped, boy. Yeah, you about to catch the short end of the stick, sir. So this is a really good method. So introducing pauses and delays into your offense on purpose is a really good way to go about this. Of course, you want to be careful when you do this, because against a really smart player, let's say you're playing against Momochi, if he sees this once, he'll automatically assume in the end game, when you are about to KO your opponent, let's say you're about to kill him with a back throw, he'll see this and say, oh, you walked back when you thought I was gonna retaliate? Oh, I know if I need to reinitiate offense, I'm gonna wait until I'm about to get KO'd, I'm about to get stunned, or or you can chip me out with super, and I'm gonna wake up low forward. Right? So that's something you'd have to take into account. You always want to be aware. This is where knowing yourself is really important. Knowing yourself and knowing your enemy, right? So that's why when you know your enemy, you can gauge how quickly can they adapt. What is more likely that they will do to me in the end game? All right? So you can create these educated guesses as opposed to just raw, just uncalculated, throwing air, just caution to the wind guesses, So if you do something like this, you just want to take into account what the counter is. So that way, when you do get into an endgame scenario against a sharp player that's so aware of managing a match from beginning to end, that, after this situation, this situation in the endgame, instead of me doing walk back, I'm gonna just do this. I'm not gonna fall for this anymore. All right. So just something to keep in mind. Let's see. So introducing delays. Yeah. So if you want to ever figure out and get track your opponent, like their mindset, which is really important in terms of offense, so that way you know when to fight and when not to fight. If you don't have the information, guys, I just cannot stress enough. Just take the time to back up a little bit. It's not gonna harm you. It might take a little bit longer for you to win the set, but it's going to be worth it a lot of the times, so you can get that information and you can use it in the end game. Because a lot of times people have great offense in the beginning of a match, but their offense struggles at the end of a game. Why is that? It's because they didn't take the time to understand their opponent entirely. When you have somebody in a end game situation, they become less disciplined. They're willing to take that extra risk. Okay? Example, some players, they'll take the risk when they lose the first match. Some players will take the risk when they lose a round, when they're on game 3 of a set. Like, if I played Infiltration, I know Infiltration will take a risk at the beginning of a set, and if he wins the first match, he'll go down to playing with less aggression, and then in the last game, he'll probably introduce the aggression again to try to throw me off. Okay, like, not every time, but it's just like a pattern I've seen in his play. Get some random shoutouts really, really quick. Let's see who's in here chilling that I didn't say what's up to. Kala, Kalibajihad. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. I'm sorry, but thank you for tuning in. Mr. Pocket, Smugdar, my name Boris, Tokyo Dom, Venture, Nidu, what's up, brother? Thank you for tuning in. Dark Matter Live TV. Of course, I appreciate all you guys. All right, so we're gonna start off round 1. Okay, so let's see. So we're gonna watch Smug, and Smug obviously plays boxer, okay? So when you want to learn how to play to the strengths of a character, you want to look at their design of the character, and he's a boxer, and there's a bunch of crazy shit about the character people kind of overlook. Like Balrog, for example, has the shortest throw hurt box in the game, so it's actually harder to do jab, walk up, throw on him if your character doesn't have a tick throw. Like, that shit will fuck up a lot against him, because when he's crouching, he's slightly shorter than other characters. So that's something to keep in mind. Alright, so let's watch his offense. How does he initiate offense? So that jump was obviously, he's trying to initiate offense off of something in neutral, right? Because he's trying to jump over the Rashid player's buttons or the Rashid player's zoning, potentially, okay? But let's just watch how Smug starts his offense. So you see, he's trying to use defense to initiate offense, because he's naturally a more defensive player. He does a lot of waiting. So you see how he does the neutral jump? That can tell you immediately right there that he's in neutral. He is willing to guess, so he'll take the hard reads in the end game. If we ever get to that scenario, it's more likely Smug will try to make a hard read if he has to. Okay. And that's good. He has the reactions. Okay, now this is a really crucial moment. That right there, that tells you what his offense is based off of. Okay? So we're gonna do this again. So, punishes, right? So when he gets in, you're going to see that at this range, Balrog's not really gonna get much. Okay, unless he counter hits. Not really gonna get anything. Because then he can go into his crouching strong, into dash, whatever. But as soon as he sees the jab is blocked, he just commits to the dash. Because he knows, in Princess Slim's mind, the Rashid player's mind, that, okay, Balrog is technically at an advantage because his crouching jab is +3. Let me just wait. I don't really want to counter poke. You know, it's still his turn. This is how you strengthen your offense, is when you know how to seize the turns back. You understand your character, and you understand the mindset of the opponent. Especially intelligent players, you can take advantage of them playing the frame data game, and now you can reinitiate your offense. Now you're right back in there, you see? So now he's back in throw range. So this was really good, because I believe that when he does when he whiffs this, it's to, I'm pretty sure that's to bait out the EXDP. He's just trying to bait him out doing it. So that was a wish. That was definitely a wish punish, because he pressed it like before. Yeah, he pressed it before he could even recognize that button was being pressed. So it's even possible that when he did the stand medium kick, that he was doing that to force Slim, or force the princess, the Rashid player, into overcommitting, which the Rashid player did, and he got the wish punish, whatever. So that was like a part of his offense, is where he deceives you into whiff punishing, and then he takes advantage of priority. You see? So that's what he's trying to do. He's just trying to convince you into doing something that makes you not block. James Chen said something really brilliant years ago that I still live by. He says that frame trapping is basically getting your opponent to unblock. So if you want to frame trap somebody, you don't always have to press buttons. You don't always have to do something. As long as you can convince them to not block, that's technically a frame trap, because you've convinced them to try to respond. So this was basically a frame trap. He didn't even make contact with the opponent, but he got him to do it. So let's go to the next round.
Round 2. Fight.
See, so that jab right there, start of the round, you see that jab? That tells you that a lot of his offense and his deception is based off of feints. It's based off of you know, it's like a boxer when you're boxing. If I throw a jab on off of your straight arm, whatever, right? If I do this to just blind you, but then I come in and I hit you with a straight. This was never really meant to hit you. This jab was just meant to blind you so that you couldn't see the follow-up straight that's coming and hitting you, right? So that's basically what this is. That's literally him playing to the strengths of the character. Whether he knows it or not, I don't know, but it works. That's exactly what the character's designed to do. He's a boxer. Alright, so more of that. You see how he whiffed the stand medium? And we see it again. He whiffs the button immediately, the crouching strong. So this confirms what we already seen. So now we're getting more evidence to Smug's playstyle. You know, where we're seeing that after he whiffs, he's following it up with certain tactics. Alright? And now he sees he overcommits. Because he's seen he overcommits, he walks back. So that tells you right there, whenever he makes a mistake, he's most likely gonna chill and be defensive. Alright? See how we're getting all of this information by understanding his offense? We can use it against his defense. So the thing is, like, a lot of the times people have the same philosophy on offense as they do defense. It's just there's slight little alterations. Nice. Okay. So he's obviously looking for something. He's not as aggressive as he was before. Okay. See the jab again. Yeah, it's out of range. Oh no, he wasn't in range just because of the V skill. Oh, okay, that was good. Sucks that that's all Slim got off of it though. And we see the same thing. That jab that leads up to the offense, right? Because he doesn't convert. He sees the block stun and he's like, oh, hold up. Let me make up for this. Let's start it all over again because I want the damage. All right. You see the structure of his offense, how he still does the dash, but he does it differently. Instead of him doing the dash after the recovery of a normal, right, where it recovers and then he goes into it. So let me rewind it. So instead of him just doing this, right, jab and then dash, now he cancels it because he knows that's just enough to kind of thwart somebody that's focusing on a certain type of dash. See, so he just mixed it up right here, and he does something with more block stun. So it's gonna make the execution aspect of punishing it a little more difficult because not only does Princess not have to look for it, Princess has to be aware of the crouching fierce block stun, right? See, so now that's all negative. That's super punishable, but you have to be looking for it. Blaze Skywalker, thank you for tuning in and following. I appreciate it so much. Let everybody know that this is the best community on Twitch. Let's get it popping. All right, cool. All right, so now he's playing more defensive. Yep, and that's it. So that means he was looking for something. You see how he kept walking back? This is an indicator, again, of what we talked about last time, that he was looking for something or he overcommitted. So you see this and he walks back. That right there, that body language will tell you immediately something is up, because usually when he was aggressive, he stayed in the aggressive tone. But when he's following up aggressive sequences with waiting, that means he's looking for something. Because you saw it earlier. He did jab dash. He did crouching fierce, V skill canceled. He was in that mindset of aggression, offense, you know? So that's how he sniped the neutral jump. So that was really good. So that is that. Danny London, thank you for the follow. I appreciate all of you. Every single one of you. You guys are incredible. So yeah, guys, that's it for the stream today.